if we want to factor this binomial, we want to think about what is in common before and after the minus sign. Now, some of you can do this a little bit quickly, and then I'll slow it down off to the side here. But if we do this quickly, the biggest number that fits into 12 and 5 is 1. So we're not going to have anything come out front because of that. But between x and x to the third, they both have an x in common. So you take that out front, and then you put a set of parentheses, and I have the minus there, and I want to jot down what's left over. So if I take an x out of 12x, I'm left with 12. And if I take an x out of x to the third, I'd still have x squared. And I've got that 5 there, so it's 5x to the second. Now, if you need to, you can expand both of them. So if you expand the 12x, maybe you take and make a factor tree out of 12. 12 is 3 times 4, and then that 4 is 2 times 2. So I'd expand the 12 to 2 times 2 times 3 times x. After the minus, I'd have 5 times x times x times x. Then I'm going to circle here what's in common to both. And so if I circle what's in common to both, the only thing that they both have, is an x. And so I take that x out front, and then I jot down what's left over. I have a 2 times 2 times 3 left over here, so that is 12 minus, and I have a 5x times x, so 5x squared. So another way to think about it. Okay, so here we go. This one, thinking about what's in common to 20 and 12. The biggest number that fits into both 20 and 12 is 4. And then the most n's that are in common to both is a single n. So I bring out a 4n, and then in parentheses, write down what's left over. So when you're factoring out, it's multiplication. So to figure out this number, divide. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And then taking an n out from n squared, I still have an n. And then this one here, 12 divided by 4 is 3, and I've taken the n out, so all that's left is 3. If you needed to instead, you could break down the 20n squared and rewrite it as 2 times 2 times 5 times n, and rewrite the 12n as 2 times 2 times 3 times n. And if you did that, you would see that you have a 2 in common to both. You also have another 2 in common to both. And then you have an n in common to both. And then what do we have in common? 2 times 2 times n. So I have 4n in common. And then write down what's left over here, and I have a 5n plus 3. It's always a good idea afterwards to just redistribute it to make sure you didn't make a mistake. 4n multiplied by 5n gets me back to 20n squared. 4n multiplied by 3 gets me back to 12n. Okay, so here's just one more example. So if we do this quickly, looking at 7 and 8, thinking about what's the biggest number that fits into 7 and 8, and only the number 1 fits in, so I'm not going to take anything out because of those numbers. This one, n to the third and n to the second, the most n's they have in common would be n to the second. So if I take the n to the second out front, what's left here, and 7n to the third over n squared, you're just dividing. I'd have an n left and a 7 left. And then if I take an n squared out of 8n squared, all I'd have left is an 8. But worst case, if you need to, you can expand. So 7n cubed becomes 7 times n times n times n. 8n squared becomes 2 times 2 times 2 times n times n. Then start looking for what they both have in common. And in this one, they both have a couple of n's in common. So if we take out what's in common to the front, that'd be n squared, and then jot down what's left over. We have a 7n plus, and then 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, so I'd have 7n plus 8. But please make sure you redistribute to verify. So n squared times 7n, 7n cubed, n squared times 8, 8n squared.
Can you report to the office, please?